Think about getting a gift that seems amazing at first but ends up being a curse. Lots of myths and old stories tell us to be careful about what we wish for. For instance, King Midas wished that everything he touched would turn into gold, but his wish made him unhappy because it kept him from enjoying simple things like food, drink, and being with his family. He made things even worse when he accidentally turned his beloved daughter into a lifeless golden statue. Similarly, in Alfred Tennyson's poem Tithonus, the poet explores the pain everlasting life through the voice of the main character who complains about his endless life. In Greek mythology, Tithonus was a prince loved by the goddess of dawn, Aurora, known as Eos in Greek. In the myth, when Aurora asked Zeus, the king of gods, to grant Tithonus eternal life or immortality so that they could be together forever, she forgot to request eternal youth for him along with eternal life. As a result, while Tithonus could not die, he continued to get older and older, becoming weak and fatigued but unable to die. In the poem, however, Tennyson made a change. In it, it is not Zeus that granted him immortality but Aurora herself, and it was Tithonus who asked for it from her. Hi everyone, this is Roni Datta from onlinefeenotes.com. Before we begin the discussion, if you are looking for questions and answers related to this poem, check out the description or visit our website onlinefeenotes.com, where we provide solutions for different subjects of different classes across different boards in India. With that being said, let's jump into the poem.
The woods decay and fall. The vapours weep their burthen to the ground. Man comes and tills the field and lies beneath, and after many a summer dies the swan.
In these first lines, Tithonus looks around at the natural world. The trees get old and fall. Air mists become liquid and falls as rain. And people work the land their whole lives before they die and return to the earth. After many summers, even the swan, which is often seen as a sign of beauty and grace, dies. The circle of life and death that rules nature is shown in this writing. Tithonus does not feel like he is part of this circle because he cannot die. Nature's decay is contrasted with Tithonus' immortality, which shows how painful it is for him to see this pattern happen over and over again without him being a part of it.
Me only cruel immortality consumes. I wither slowly in thine arms. Here at the quiet limit of the world, a white-haired shadow roaming like a dream, the ever-silent spaces of the east, far-folded mists, and gleaming halls of morn.
In this passage, Tithonus talks about how being eternal has become a pain for him. He thinks that the gift he wanted so badly is taking over his life. The natural world changes and grows again, but Tithonus keeps living, fading but never dying. The word white-haired shadow makes it sound like he is just a ghostly old shadow of himself. The setting at the quiet limit of the world makes him feel alone, like he is on the edge of existence and far from the excitement of life. The picture of roaming like in a dream shows how disconnected he is from reality. He is stuck between life and death. The lines, the ever-silent spaces of the east, and far-folded mists and gleaming halls of morn add to this feeling of being alone and outside of time. The ever-silent spaces emphasizes how his life will never change, while the far-folded mists and gleaming halls of morn describe a world of heavenly beauty that he sees but can't fully join or be a part of.
Alas for this grey shadow, once a man, so glorious in his beauty and thy choice, who madest him thy chosen, that he seemed to his great heart none other than a god.
Tithonus feels sad that he has changed from a lively man to a shadow. He thinks of how beautiful and strong he used to be, making him look like a god. He feels a deep sense of loss as he thinks about how the goddess Aurora picked him because of his great qualities. But the glory is gone, and the eternity he thought would be a blessing has hurt and diminished him.
I ask thee, give me immortality. Then didst thou grant mine asking with a smile, like wealthy men, who care not how they give.
These lines show where Tithonus' problem came from. He asked Aurora to make him immortal, and she gave him her wish without giving it much thought. He said that she was as kind as a rich person who gives something away without thinking about what might happen. Under the surface, the comparison criticizes Aurora for not being careful about how she fulfilled his request.
But thy strong hours indignant worked their wills, and beat me down and marred and wasted me, and though they could not end me, left me maimed to dwell in presence of immortal youth, immortal age beside immortal youth.
Tithonus talks about how time, which he calls thy strong hours, has hurt him. Even though he cannot die, time has taken away all of his beauty and health, leaving him in a state of constant decay. The word maimed makes a point of showing that being eternal has left him broken and unfinished. Even worse, he has to go through this while seeing Aurora's eternal youth. Aurora cannot grow old or die because she is a goddess. The painful difference between his old age and her beauty haunts him.
And all I was, in ashes. Can thy love, thy beauty, make amends, though even now, close over us, the silver star, thy guide, shines in those tremulous eyes that fill with tears to hear me. Let me go, take back thy gift.
As Tithonus thinks about whether Aurora's love and beauty can make up for his pain, his sadness grows. During his plea, he draws a clear picture of her eyes, which are filled with tears. Tithonus begs her to free him from his eternal life and return the gift that has turned into a curse. He wants to die and be at peace. His plea shows that he wants to go back to the normal order of life and death because he is suffering from living forever.
Why should a man desire in any way to vary from the kindly race of men, or pass beyond the goal of ordinance, where all should pause, as is most meet for all?
It is not clear to Tithonus why anyone would want to get away from the natural cycle of life and death. He says that death is the goal of ordinance, which means that it is the natural and necessary end for all living things. He upset the balance by going over this limit, and now he has to deal with the consequences. He has lost his sense of belonging and harmony with other people because he is immortal, which is what the phrase kindly race of men means.
A soft air fans the cloud apart. There comes a glimpse of that dark world where I was born. Once more the old mysterious glimmer steals from thy pure brows, and from thy shoulders pure, and bosom beating with a heart renewed.
The dark world in this case is Earth and his mortal life, which he wants to go back to. He sees a mysterious glimmer from Aurora, which could be a sign of how divine or caring she is. His decay stands in stark contrast to her purity and beauty, making the gap between them even bigger. The line, and bosom beating with a heart renewed, emphasizes Aurora's freshness and never-ending renewal. It also shows how painful it is that Tithonus' decline is irreversible. This makes Tithonus feel even more alone and makes him long for death.
Thy cheek begins to redden through the gloom. Thy sweet eyes brighten slowly close to mine, ere yet they blind the stars, and the wild team which love thee, yearning for thy yoke, arise and shake the darkness from their loosened manes, and beat the twilight into flakes of fire.
As Aurora's cheeks turn red and her eyes get brighter, her divine beauty grows even more stunning. The idea that her light shines brighter than the stars shows how out of this world she is. The wild team is the name of her horses, who are eager to start their journey across the sky. These lines show how quickly and dramatically night turns into day. This imagery shows the beauty and power of Aurora's eternal renewal, contrasting it with Tithonus' life that does not change.
Lo, ever thus thou growest beautiful, in silence, then before thine answer given departest, and thy tears are on my cheek.
Tithonus notices that Aurora is always more beautiful when there is silence, but she leaves him without answering his plea. Her tears left on his cheeks. It shows how sad she is and how she can't take back the immortality she gave him.
Why wilt thou ever scare me with thy tears, and make me tremble lest a saying learnt in days far off, on that dark earth, be true. The gods themselves cannot recall their gifts.
Aurora's tears frighten him, and he recalls an old saying that even the gods cannot take back their gifts. This statement holds the tragedy of his situation. His immortality cannot be reversed, no matter how much he and Aurora might wish it.
Ay me, with what another heart in days far off, and with what other eyes I used to watch, if I be he that watched, the lucid outline forming round thee, saw the dim curls kindle into sunny rings.
Tithonus thinks back to when he was young and feels sad that he has lost his vitality and sense of wonder. The way he keeps saying, "Ay me," shows how much he misses the time when he saw Aurora with passionate eyes and a heart full of life. He wonders if he is still the same person who used to be amazed by her beauty. This shows how far away he is from the person he used to be.
Changed with thy mystic change, and felt my blood glow with the glow that slowly crimsoned all thy presence and thy portals, while I lay, mouth, forehead, eyelids, growing dewy warm, with kisses balmier than half-opening buds of April, and could hear the lips that kissed whispering, I knew not what, of wild and sweet, like that strange song I heard Apollo sing, while Ilion like a mist rose into towers.
These lines are Tithonus' memory of a very private and magical time he spent with Aurora. He was affected emotionally and physically by Aurora's power to change things, and the phrase "changed with thy mystic change" may have been a metaphor for the dawn's progress and her divine essence. Tithonus felt his blood glow as her presence grew stronger, reflecting the red color of the dawn's light as it spreads over the horizon. This language shows that Tithonus and Aurora have a connection that is almost spiritual. His words about how warm her kisses were remind him of half-opening buds of April. This metaphor makes one think of how fresh and gentle spring is. So deeply her love affected him that even his mouth, forehead, and eyelids felt warm. The whispers from her lips, described as wild and sweet, added a dreamy, outwardly quality to the interaction. According to Tithonus, this was like hearing Apollo's music as the ancient city of Ilion or Troy emerged from the mist. Referring to Apollo, the sun and music god, and the legendary city brings out the grandeur and mysterious beauty of Aurora's presence even more.
Yet hold me not forever in thine east. How can my nature longer mix with thine? Coldly thy rosy shadows bathe me, cold are all thy lights, and cold my wrinkled feet.
Tithonus begs Aurora not to keep him in her realm of living forever. He does not belong in her pure world. Even her rosy shadow and lights make him feel cold. The phrase "wrinkled feet" emphasizes how old he looks and how different she is from him.
Upon thy glimmering thresholds, when the steam floats up from those dim fields about the homes of happy men that have the power to die, and grassy barrows of the happier dead.
In these lines, Tithonus draws a contrast between his never-ending pain and the way life is supposed to be. The glimmering thresholds symbolizes the boundary between Aurora's divine world and the mortal world below. The image of steam floats up from those dim fields evokes a sense of life force rising from the earth, symbolizing the ongoing natural cycle of life and death. Tithonus is envious of the happy men who have the power to die, which shows that death lets people live full lives and find peace in the end. By calling the graves grassy burrows of the happier dead, he shows that he longs for the peace and comfort of death but has been denied it. For Tithonus, these graves are a peaceful way to return to earth.
Release me and restore me to the ground. Thou seest all things, thou wilt see my grave. Thou wilt renew thy beauty morn by morn. I earth in earth forget these empty courts, and thee returning on thy silver wheels.
Tithonus keeps asking to be set free and stresses that he wants to go back to the natural cycle of life and death. "Thou seest all things, thou wilt see my grave," acknowledges Aurora's divine knowledge of all things as he tries to reassure her that she will always know him even after he dies. He talks about Aurora's endless renewal as the goddess of dawn and her chariot in the sky, which stands for time passing over and over, and her job of bringing each day. This describes how the universe moves and changes all the time. "I, earth in earth, forgets these empty courts," is his last wish, and it shows what he really wants: to return to nature and leave the empty halls of immortality. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for such videos. Do check out onlinefinos.com, and as always, thank you for watching and I will see you in the next video.